Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, on AM 560, The Answer. Tune in every week at 5 for an informative discussion about IRS obligations, credit card debt, mortgage default, collection activity, and how to resolve these legal issues using tax resolution, debt settlement, mortgage loan modification, foreclosure defense, and bankruptcy. Your host is Stephen Leahy, a Chicago attorney and the principal at OPM Tax Resolution and the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, P.C. Stephen is the author of Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. IRS and debt issues are serious, but there is help. There are resolutions. So get ready and take notes during the IRS Radio Hour. And now, here's your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
Hello, Chicago. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer. It is Sunday night, and here we are. We help people dealing with IRS problems, audits, levies, liens, garnishments, collections, and payroll tax issues. We also help with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or you know someone who does, you should give me a call at 312-664-6649. I have a book. The book is Deal with Your IRS Problems Today, and there's lots of answers in that book. So if you have any questions and you want some answers, give me a call. Be happy to send you a copy of my book. You can also email me at questions@irsradiohour.com. I want to introduce my co-host, Jim Leahy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. If it's Sunday at 5, it's the IRS Radio Hour. We do talk about finances and the IRS and how to get you out of your financial troubles, but the show also tries to keep our audience up to date on local issues, news, sports, family stuff. We try to move the show along. Last week we talked about Steve's blog, installment agreements, and then we had a letter from a listener why they canceled my installment agreement. So that seemed to be
kind of went hand in hand.
Hand in hand. It was perfect. It's almost like we wrote that. Then we had our ongoing saga of our spin-off and a spin-off coming off of the saga. We talked about how the what's the name of the play? They're atheists, but it's called Freedom from Religion. Made a secret deal with the IRS. We still don't know more about that, but we will keep you up to date on that. We will also have a question from a listener this week, and that's about what is that about?
About property taxes.
Oh, that's right.
And bankruptcies.
Is that
are they dischargeable in bankruptcy? And then also, my blog this week has to do with offers and compromise. And that's the next step.
I was getting to that because that's this week's show.
That is this
So from last week's show to this week's show, we try to keep things moving along. I will say in this week, some special things happened. The Cubs were home for, that's not special, but the Cubs were home for 7 games.
And I made it out to a couple of games.
4 and 5. We had some great pitching.
Brought some of my kids and yours.
And mine too, yeah. That's
and
right.
we had a great time at the ballpark. Always a great time at the ballpark.
Some young hitting. We got
read a great article about the strategy of the Cubs, so that's different than everybody else, and that they're loading up on all these young bats where most teams are loading up on all the young arms.
And like I told you, we're losing to win instead of like the Yankees who win to win. But we're getting used to that.
We're losing to win.
That's right. We're losing to win to make it that much better.
And the Bears played. So
twice. Yeah, from the last time we talked.
So the Bears are coming around, and
I'm a little worried about the special teams. We got rid of Devin Hester, but otherwise, that's pretty good.
I don't know who's going to be the number 2 quarterback, Jim.
I think, like I said, Carson or Palmer's probably about 39 years old. Yeah, Palmer's about 39 years old. He's supposed to be some kind of...
I think he's 30 years old.
Teacher or whatever, so I think Jimmy Clausen. But, the problem with Clausen is like every other Notre Dame quarterback, they stink. I'm sorry, Jimmy.
I love Notre Dame. I'm a big Notre Dame fan.
Me too, love them. But their quarterbacks, except for Joe Montana...
even his own son had to move out of
I know, that's true.
Notre Dame.
Because you want to be, So what we're going to talk about, like you said, what are we talking about this week? What's on your blog this week?
I just talked about the blog, offer and compromise.
Offer and compromise.
And that's one of the things, remember, there's 6 things you can do if you owe the IRS money, and we'll talk about that. And that's going to be a part of it. But also, what you meant, you failed to mention that my sister had a party.
Oh yeah, that's right. We had a family gathering. My sister has a great party every year in August. I believe it's the first weekend or second weekend in August every year, and she
had the hot dog stand out.
And we cooked 56 pounds of ribs,
and I gave away 100 hot dogs.
So 56 pounds
Actually,
of ribs.
108.
56 pounds of ribs and 100 hot dogs on top of Italian beef and pork roast.
It was a great party. I know my sister is a avid listener to our show, so she'll be.
She's the one.
So I know that she's listening. So I wanted to thank her on the air that she had a great party, and thanks for all you do.
Well, we want to get to some parts of last week we talked about this IRS thing goes off into different tangents, but. We were talking about the Johnson Amendment that they were following last week with the religious, and we were trying to warn people about the religious implications here, and the problem with them making some kind of secret deal. Mm-hmm. And so we want to tell you, I'll give you a little bit more about what the Johnson Amendment was, and it was from 1954, and it says that organizations or I believe it's a.
It's got to do with the 501c organizations, and it was proposed by Lyndon Johnson, and it affects churches and other nonprofit organizations with 501c exemptions.
Yeah, the nonprofits.
It was supposed to prevent these nonprofits from participating, or actually just
politicking from the pulpit
for a specific candidate.
Yeah.
So it's hard to divorce, for instance, pro-life from the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and,
a lot of the issues. We're not supposed to talk about issues in church. That doesn't seem like how is it going to affect our daily lives? Isn't that what religion is all about?
Well, and there it is right there too. They're going after these groups, and that's the IRS again going in and making the rules up as they go along. So they'll change here, it changes there. It depends on what the mood is in Washington. It seems to me, and of course, none of them ever
targeted because you look at the same activity from one group to another group, and one group is prohibited and stopped from doing it, and another group can do just that. Organizing for America is a nonprofit organization.
We have a nonprofit organization in Chicago that's it's called Operation Push. Now I've seen numerous amounts of candidates,
specific candidates
mm-hmm. up on talking to them from the pulpit even. Mm-hmm. And so I don't understand how this is, how they interpret this, but there's hopefully this will all come out in the open, and so this has to be adjudicated. It has to be sent to the Supreme Court, and it will be. But what's scary about it is
well, I agree. It is scary, and it has to do with. Again, it doesn't matter who's in charge. If the person in charge is going to attack their critics mm-hmm. using the powers and the levers of government, none of us are safe.
Yeah, which is what the focus that we've been trying to focus on in the show is trying to keep people up to date and warn them. Because, we're going on kind of a vacation here. Congress will be gone. In 3 weeks over there, they'll go, oh, there is no scandal at the IRS. That thing is over. We have a little later on in the show, we're going to provide you a clip from February of the president saying, this thing is done. It's over. I don't know what you guys are making this thing
I think
up.
we were talking about that a little bit before the show today, Jim, is how the news media kind of focuses on something and it's big news, and then all of a sudden it goes away.
That's right. Is there a war in Israel
But
anymore?
nothing's changed. Yeah, nothing's changed. Israel, and that's a very good example. This thing happens in Ferguson, Missouri, and all of a sudden there isn't a war in Israel. The Ukrainians aren't doing anything.
There's a war in Ferguson. It looked like it yesterday. I thought they were showing me. I thought they were showing me Gaza, and it turns out to be in front of a quickie mart.
I saw that. I saw the police all decked out in military gear, and I thought, man, nothing good can happen from that.
No, start shooting stuff into the crowd. People are going to start going nuts,
as they should. I mean,
well, I don't know if they should.
They shouldn't go nuts, but I agree with that. But it's like you kind of provoke it by putting it out there. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
Well, we're looking forward to the rest of the show. Steve, if someone wanted to contact you and find out how to get that they need your help, how would they do it?
Well, you can always reach me you go to my internet site. There is a thing called the internet now. It's not just a fad.
It's just Facebook.
It's ChicagoTaxTeam.com. You can reach me on my phone, 312-664-6649. Send me a question at questions@IRSRadioHour.com.
Don't we also have a
Facebook page?
And we also do some, there's a film of the, not film, but...
yes, you can watch the videos. That's right.
And from where? See you later.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Remember, I have a book. It's Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. And if you want a copy of the book, give me a call at 312-664-6649.
And if we do have a video of the show, where would they go to see the video?
We do have a video of the show, and we also have the podcast, so you can also listen to it on the podcast. So if you go to our website at ChicagoTaxTeam.com, on the top left corner, there's a link called IRS Radio Hour, and you can go there. You can listen to the podcast. You can see the videos. We try to put segments on for specific questions. So if you have a question about, for instance, last week we talked about installment agreements. So if you had questions about installment agreements and how those work, you can watch that video clip of us talking about installment agreements. And this week on my blog, we're going to talk about offer and compromise, because remember, there's 6 things you can do if you owe the IRS money. And the first thing you can do is you can write them a check and you can pay them. That's not really a good option for a lot of people. They don't have enough money to pay them. So I would tell people, though, if you can, borrow it from somebody or get it from a credit card or get it from anybody. Don't borrow it from the IRS if you can avoid it at all. So get the money from somewhere else and pay the IRS off if you can. If you can't, then you have to come up with some other options. So the second option is to do an installment agreement. We talked about the installment agreements last week. Mm-hmm. The third thing you can do is you can do an offer and compromise, and that's something we're going to talk about in just a minute, how they work and how it's changed over the last couple of years. The fourth thing you can do is you can be declared currently not collectible. That simply means, hey, IRS, I don't have enough money to pay you. I hardly have enough money to pay my bills. And then if the IRS determines that that's true, then they will stop collection activities against you. The fifth thing you can do is you can file for protection under the bankruptcy laws. We've talked about that on the show, and that's a very complicated area of the law, and it's something that, but it's always available and something that you should always look into to see if it's available for you. And then the sixth thing you can do, and this is what happens to a lot of people before they come to see me, is you can do nothing, and you can let the IRS start, come after you and take your assets and harass you, because that's what they do. So this week we're going to talk about an offer in compromise, and an offer in compromise is actually where the IRS agrees to take less than you owe, actually a lump sum. You could pay it in installments. Historically, the offer in compromise was a very difficult option because very few of them were granted. I think historically the number is like 18% were granted. So all these commercials you see out there that says, pay the IRS pennies on the dollar. Yeah, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about the offer in compromise. And this is also one of those remedies that were brought up in the taxpayer bill of rights.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. None of this was even available to taxpayers until the 90s when...
That's right, 1996 Taxpayer Bill of Rights. They created this offer in compromise, some way for people to pay the IRS and actually get the IRS off their backs. Now, I think that we talked in this show a lot about the IRS funding and that they've been cut. Their funding has been cut.
That's something that we're going to be talking about in the next segment as well, because when they cut the funding, of course, they start screaming. It's like in the city, the first people they cut are teachers and firemen and police.
That's right.
So the people are left, and then you scream, "Oh my God, pay them!"
So, but and even when they came out after 1996, the offered compromise again, as I mentioned, they only had 18% success rate. So most people didn't get an offer in compromise, even though they tried. So they go through the hassle and the expense of hiring someone to do an offer in compromise, because it is complicated, because there's lots of documents to get involved. There's lots of it's a complicated process.
Well, the problem with those commercials that come out, and as you were saying when we first came on here, the reason why you like to use local guys is because the problem with those, it sounds like, boy, it's easy. I owed $400,000. They took $40. This is great.
The IRS is they're so accommodating. You don't hear that a lot from people, but and again, I have helped.
If you listen to the commercials,
I agree, and again, because that's an easy sell, right? If I'm going to sit down and I'm trying to help you, and I tell you, you know what, you could pay the IRS pennies on the dollars. Where do I sign up? How do I make that happen? And I think a lot of times that attorneys know that you're not a good candidate, but they sell you that service, and it might take a year to find out that it doesn't work for you.
As you said, most of the time they're not attorneys.
Well, a lot of times they're not attorneys, and they as you mentioned, they just gather information. And again, they know that that's not going to work for you, but that's what you want because it sounds good.
Yeah, well, that gets you on the phone anyway,
and it gets and it gets you to call them, and then it's an easy sell. Because where do I sign up? How much does it cost? If I could pay 10 cents on the dollar, that's great. I'm hiring you.
Why would I ever pay taxes if I could do that?
Well, that's a very good point, and I think that's the way the IRS looks at it. And in 2012, they came up with what they call a Fresh Start initiative, I should say. It's a Fresh Start initiative from the IRS, and they tried to revamp a lot of these programs. So installment agreements were revamped. We talked about that last week, in that they used to be limited at $25,000 or less for what they call a streamline, where you don't have to give the IRS any information about your particular financial situation, and they doubled that. It went to $50,000. So now it encompasses a lot more people, makes it easier for people to resolve their IRS problems. And they did this very similar thing here with the offer in compromise, where they used to look at, first they were very difficult, and when you looked at your income and then they subtracted what they called your allowable expenses, they were very stingy with allowable expenses, and so it looked like after they did the calculation, it looked like you had a lot more money at the end of the month than you actually did. And then they would use that number, multiply it by 60, which is 5 years, and then they would come up with a number. So, for instance, if it looks like I have $300 a month, or the IRS determines I think I have $300 a month. The IRS says, hey, you have $1,000 a month because of the way they do the budget. All of a sudden, if I multiply that by 60, I have $60,000 to give to the IRS. even though my own calculations show that I only have $18,000 to give to the IRS. So there's a big difference there between $60,000 and $18,000.
Yes.
Okay, so no one of the initiative here, they've kind of reduced. They've allowed more expenses, so now maybe I can get it to $300 or $400 instead of $1,000. Okay, and if I have IRAs or any other assets where I have equity in, they're going to add that to whatever my disposable income was, and that's going to, again, if I have any IRAs or anything, it's going to make an offer and compromise almost impossible to get.
But don't they? If you were to go into your IRA. If you were going to your IRA,
I'd have to pay taxes on it.
Then the IRS would fine you anyway.
Exactly. It makes it really difficult. But with the new initiative now, they're looking only at 12 months or 24 months, depending on how long you want to pay in order of disposable income. So in my example, even if it's $1,000, if it's only 12, now it's only $12,000, where it used to be $60,000 to resolve it. Now it's only $12,000. And if you're going to want to pay more than 5 payments, up to 24 payments, then it goes up to 24. The multiple's 24.
But the secret here is the IRS doesn't tell you all these things. You have to find those things out.
Absolutely
for yourself.
true. So I had someone come.
Or an attorney.
Well, I think my own opinion is you should hire an attorney, because these are complicated. You got to know what they're looking for, and it's complicated, and to present your numbers in the best possible light. Because whatever you say on there, and if you make mistakes, and I had someone come in this week who was just denied a offer and compromise, and I looked at their paperwork and it was wrong. They just had all their expenses were wrong, and the IRS won on it and said, well, here, this is what you say you can pay, and because they're not going to correct it for you, right?
So that's the thing. You can almost pay your fees by the money you're going to.
Absolutely true. By Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And the hassle and everything else.
Well, they can't afford not to go to you.
That's what I keep trying to tell them, Jim.
And speaking of that, if they wanted to go to you, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, so if you owe the IRS any money, then you should call my office at 312-664-6649. Make an appointment. Come on in and talk to me. It doesn't cost anything. It's a free consultation.
And you get a cookie.
And you do get cookies. We do have fresh baked cookies when you come in. So it's people find that unusual, but it's true. You can also visit the website at chicagotaxteam.com. You can send me a question at questions at IRS Radio Hour.
We look forward to the questions.
Yeah, we do.
And if they want to, now let's get to the video.
It's on IRSRadioHour.com.
Okay. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated to learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is AM 560, The Answer. Remember, if you want a copy of my book, I am an author.
El Fribo. Give us
a call at 312-664-6649.
Well, this is the segment that we were talking about. This is our ongoing segment of our saga.
As the IRS Turns.
This week, we thought we'd start from the beginning and try to bring everything together because we have a couple of weeks off from Congress. So we think that now's the time to show everybody how this started, or where we think it started, or how it started, and why this is such a blatant lie.
Let's start with what the president thought.
Mm-hmm. What some people are saying is that the IRS was used at a local level in Cincinnati, maybe other places, to go after.
Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Well, of course, we found out it was absolutely right.
No, actually, he was wrong. He was right in that it was wrong because it didn't start in Cincinnati.
No, of course not.
He said it started.
They tried to blame 4 people.
Yeah,
and in the date of this is the 2nd of February.
Yeah.
Now we didn't come on the air until the very beginning of May. And we've had more than enough material ever since then. So he was acting as though this is over with then.
Well, I think that's when the Justice Department investigation was to begin.
Well,
they haven't even started an investigation.
They haven't started yet.
And he already determined what was going on there. You know, there's some more about him.
Basically says,
so you're saying if there's no corruption there at all? No,
that's not what I'm saying. That's actually
no. But I want to know what you're saying. You're the leader of the country. You're saying no corruption. None.
No, there were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but no
office.
Mass corruption.
Not even mass corruption. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Okay.
We now know that it wasn't from a local office. It had nothing to do with the local office. It had to do with Washington, D.C. and the people at the very top of the IRS.
Well, you know, my concern has to do with the Justice Department investigation and where they're going with that investigation. And, you know, and that's the concern. And I think that after watching some of the Justice Department officials under oath and talking about, well, we don't really know. Have you talked to anybody? I don't know if we talked to anybody. Have you looked into? Oh, I don't know if we looked into that. And they don't have any answers. One of the interesting things is one of the first organizations who brought a suit against the IRS was this Z Street organization about Israel, about the pro-Israel group.
Oh, that's right. They were one of the groups that anything with Israel in the title was turned down.
That's another one because it was deemed to be in conflict with the administration's policies. And so they didn't want anybody to be working in conflict with them, even though they have a right to do so under our Constitution. So that was, and what came out this last week is in that case, the lawyer for the Justice Department who was handling that case also seemed to be working at the IRS exempt organization.
Yeah, see, this whole thing is
department under Lois Lerner. At the time that their 501c
so he's looking into himself.
That's exactly right.
They're like, no, this week.
That goes to the Justice Department. I mean, are they really trying to get to the bottom of it?
Of course not. And this week, Judge Sullivan, Sully we call him, Judge Sullivan came out. It looked as though this whole thing was over. It said the IRS had won the first round, and it showed that they were upfront about the emails and these things, and we'll never find the hard drives. But then all of a sudden, Judge Sullivan came out and said, "This is just."
Because he had given them to August 11th to produce these things under oath.
Under oath. And then there was
and now there's a conflict between someone, because someone was saying, well, there was nothing wrong with that hard drive. But there was already testimony that there was scratches and it was damaged. And so now it's conflict. Well, who's right, who's wrong?
All the regular media actually stayed, so Darrell Issa kind of gave a good excuse this week. I want you to hear this.
This committee has an intent to make to the greatest extent possible public what we can find is being done on behalf of the American people to bring back the confidence in the IRS.
This is in relationship to the fact that they are not working with the Senate. The Senate wants to expand powers and give the IRS more power. The Republicans are saying, look, we have been the ones behind this, trying to find this these taxes and going in. But we are no longer going to give them any more power until we find out what's going on.
We talked about them getting less money, and so saying, "Hey, wait a minute, you're helping tax cheats."
That's
because
right.
you're not funding us. So now you're letting people cheat on their taxes,
and they're not feeding their children.
That's
right. I mean, that's just what they always do.
Women and children hurt worse. It's the worst thing that could happen.
Washington Times blames women would say women and children hurt worse.
That's right.
Well, Steve, as I said, we'll keep you guys up on this. I mean, every week.
If you're fighting the IRS,
right.
You should call me. And my telephone number is 312-664-6649. Remember, we have this show is on a podcast and also video. So you want to watch a video, and you can go to ChicagoTaxTeam.com and see my blog. I have a lot of answers and videos on the blog.
Okay, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, a local Chicago attorney. I believe that God has given each of us unique abilities, and we are to use those abilities to help others. I have helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster. And if the IRS is threatening you with liens, levies, or garnishments, or you have years of unfiled tax returns, I want to help you. Compliance is the first step to resolving your IRS problem, and compliance begins with your 2013 taxes. Are you ready? If you call now, make an appointment, and visit my office for a free confidential consultation, we will complete your personal 2013 tax return at no charge, even if you don't hire me to resolve your IRS problem. Remember, I'm a local Chicago attorney. Investigate me. Simply Google Stephen with a V, Leahy, Leahy, reviews to find out what the Better Business Bureau and others have said. Or call me at 312-664-6649. Again, it's 312-664-6649. Visit us on the web at ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Call me today.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. I am an author of a book, Deal with Your IRS Problems Today.
Oh, that's impressive.
And if you want a copy of that book, a free copy, give me a call at 312-664-6649. Now, our last segment, we talked about our ongoing saga, and there was lots more I wanted to talk about. One of the things I wanted to point out is that through July of this year, the IRS has collected a record amount of money, $2,469,178,000,000.
And how many cents?
I'm sure they have it to the penny.
And 99 cents.
They got it to the.
It's over now.
They got it to the penny. And so, all of this.
Hey, they owe me money.
We need more money to collect more money because remember, they claim that for every dollar we give to the collections, they collect $6 in return. Mm-hmm. And this is what we talked about. Was it last week or the week before? The tax gap, 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah,
the tax gap. And the difference between what the IRS thinks they should have collected and what they actually did collect.
Well, Steve, I'd love to keep talking about that, but we do have a segment here.
Okay, what's this? This segment is about.
And this segment is the a listener question, mm-hmm. and the question is. The question is: Do property taxes are they covered if you claim bankruptcy?
Are they discharged in bankruptcy?
And
the answer is no.
No. Okay, that's it.
And
now we'll move on.
And this is why they're not. Okay, because taxes generally go with the land. And so they're a secured claim. So they don't go away if you file bankruptcy. And so if I'm behind in my taxes and I file bankruptcy, I still owe the taxes. Actually, I don't owe them. The land owes them. But if I want to keep the land, then they have to be paid. And if I don't pay them, or if the mortgage company doesn't pay them, then somebody else will pay them. It's at a tax sale. They go to a tax sale, and some third party buys them. and pays the taxes. And then in order for you to keep your property, you have to redeem them. And redemption means you have to pay the person who bought them. You have to pay them, and you have to pay them interest. And if you don't, then they will own the property after a redemption period. It can go up to 3 years. It's to 2 to 3 years. It can be extended to 3 years. And that means that if you don't pay that person within 3 years of the date of the sale, then that person now owns the property free and clear of any liens. So now you don't own the property, and the mortgage company, if you have a mortgage on the property, they don't have a lien on the property either. So they lose also, because now it becomes a unsecured debt rather than a debt secured by the property. And so they can't foreclose anymore. So what usually happens is this. I fall behind in my taxes. Usually it's covered by my escrow. So if I'm paying my mortgage, the mortgage part of my mortgage payment goes into an escrow account, and the escrow account pays my property taxes. If I'm not in escrow and I don't pay the taxes, well, the mortgage company learns about that because they have an interest in that property. And what they'll do is they'll pay it for you. They're not really doing you a favor. They're protecting their own interests, because if they don't pay it and you don't pay it, then the mortgage company will lose its lien. Mm-hmm. So if I'm falling behind in my mortgage, and I get this a lot with people on foreclosure, I haven't paid my mortgage, and so I haven't paid the taxes. What's going to happen with the taxes? Or if they lose their house to foreclosure, are they going to come after me for those taxes that were in the foreclosure and I haven't paid them in 3 years? So can the Cook County government come after me? And the answer is no, it goes with the land. And so whoever buys that property is going to be responsible for the taxes on that property. And if they don't pay the taxes, then they'll be sold at an auction, and the person who buys it at auction will gather and will be the owner of that property after the redemption period expires. And this is important stuff, I think, because people don't understand the way the property tax system works. Remember now, the government can't go on without the money, okay? Yeah. So they want the money now. They're not going to come up with an installment agreement. You're not going to be able to pay them in payments. They want the money now. And so the way they do that, again, is they have this sale, and someone comes and gives them the money for the property tax. And now if you don't pay it, you have a right to redeem it. But if you don't redeem it, then you will lose ownership of that property. And again, the person who bought that tax will own the property free and clear of any liens. And that's important stuff.
That's very important stuff. I will say one thing. It's depressing to know that you really never own your own land.
Well, I always say here in Cook County, at least, and in Lake County, I guess, is that we never own our property. We're renting it from.
You can be living there for 100 years, and
many of our taxes are more than most people pay in a mortgage payment on a monthly basis, and so we never really own our land. We just rent it from the county.
Yeah, so even if you've lived there for 10 generations, you've only just been renting.
If you don't pay the taxes, they're taking it away from you, and that's the way it works.
And it's never paid off, and they just keep going up.
So you don't ever really own the property. The county owns the property, and you're renting it from them.
So, the important part here is to make sure that you're protected and that you have somebody that you could talk to and find out how to take care of these problems. And how would somebody get in touch with you?
Well, again, I think a lot of this goes together, and that's why you need someone that can put it all together for you. And that's what we do. And you can give us a call at 312-664-6649. Now, don't wait till the end, okay? I get calls from people whose property's been sold at a tax sale, and a month before it's supposed to be redeemed, they call and say, well, what can I do about it? Well, it's hard to do anything about it a month before the sale. But sometimes you can still sell the property. It's still yours until the date of sale. So you got to take some action. And to take action, call me at 312-664-6649. Visit the website at chicagotaxteam.com or send me a question at questions@irsradiohour.com.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Stephen Leahy, and for me, success comes when I help other people. That's why I became an attorney. I know the economy has taken a financial toll on many families and businesses, but I believe that they can recover from their financial problems if they just get the right help. I'm here in Chicago, and I know that if people improve their financial situation, they improve their lives, and I want to help. If the IRS is attacking you with liens, levies, or garnishments, if your mortgage company has threatened foreclosure, or collectors' calls are driving you mad, you need help. We listen to your financial situation, find out what's really going on, and develop a workable solution. Remember, I'm right here in Chicago, and your first visit is completely free and confidential. I will tell you on the spot what can be done and what it will cost. If you are looking for help, you've come to the right place. Call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Again, that's 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Call me today.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy on AM 560, The Answer. Attorney Stephen Leahy brings his passion and expertise to your radio each and every week during the IRS Radio Hour. Tune in, take notes, and be educated. Learn your options resolving financial obstacles that face so many. And now, back to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back. I am your host, attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer. Remember, I am an author of a book called Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. And if you want a copy of that book, give me a call at 312.
Will you sign it?
I will sign it.
312. Wow. I don't even have one of those.
You did. I'm not giving it to you, though.
El Fribo would for me.
If you call it.
I'm not buying it.
312.
I'll wait till it comes out in paperback.
It is a paperback book. 312-664-6649.
I'm sorry.
It is a paperback.
Well, this is the part of the show.
What do you think? I'm giving away hardcover books for free? What are you, dopey?
What are you? They're on the fifth printing. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, this is our wrap-up, we call it. But you know, sometimes on the wrap-up, I got to talk about things I didn't talk about.
That's right. We keep forgetting. The show just goes by so fast sometimes where, you know, I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that.
So a couple of weeks ago, I saw an article that I thought was interesting, that a third of all consumers have a collection file against them. So there's a collector coming against them.
Yeah, but everything's bright and rosy.
Yeah, I know.
The economy's back. We're back like gangbusters.
I've been doing this for some time, and it was always whenever I did a bankruptcy for somebody or you did a credit report for somebody, it almost always came up that they owed the Chicago Health Club money. They were everywhere. Everybody had it on their collection. Because I kind of joined it. They didn't know that it was forever. No one ever. And it's the same thing a lot. This happens a lot with utility bills and things like that nobody, they don't even know that they owe them and they're in collections.
Well, you know,
and it hurts your credit report. So that's why it's always important, I think, periodically to pull your credit report, see what's on it.
Well, you know, speaking of things that we forget to talk about, today I forgot to give the list of 9 senators, and we don't have time to give all 9, but I am not going to give our very own ward boss and bully, Senator Dick Durbin, a break. People here, I want you to remember that he's been accused of using the government and more than the elections department, the collections, elections, anything he can use to beat you over the head to get you to do what he wants. He will. Ask Walgreens.
And go after his political enemies.
And he'll go after his political enemies. And then, so I wanted you to...
I think sometimes we're all naive and think that because, of course, if you listen to them, they're all out for the public. They're just public servants, Jim. They want to help us.
That's right. But we forget, because we live here in Chicago, we're used to seeing this. People around the country are stunned when this happens, or the president gets on and looks down at the Supreme Court and starts questioning chastising people. Well, yeah, they all think they're the mayor of Chicago. You can do whatever you want. That's not the way things are supposed to work.
I wonder if anybody's going to run against our esteemed mayor. Well, his numbers are in the tank, and everyone's afraid to go against him.
That's right.
I wonder why that is, Jim.
Well, I'm wondering, and who's going to give money to somebody running against him? Can I put up my sign in your window? No,
I don't think so.
I think there'll be a building inspector there tomorrow, and your garbage won't be picked up, and then you'll have
terrible. And every inspector in
the health department will be here the day after, and
that's a terrible thing.
Yeah, and this is it used to be a joke when we were kids. We had a $10 pencil, a $5 pencil. It just gets kind of old.
I think it's not a joke. I think we say there's corruption everywhere, I guess, and you can't get around it, but you can limit it. I say so. You should call me at 312-664-6649.
I don't remember asking
if you have any questions about any of this, should call me.
That's right. And don't if somebody's coming after you, you need help. That's what you need, and you need a local attorney and somebody who knows the ropes.
That's right.
And knows his way in and out of the city.
So no matter what your legal problem is,
and his name is Bernie
Schwartz. You should call me, Stephen Leahy, at 312-664-6649. Before we go here, I want to thank Debbie for all of her help.
Thank you, Debbie.
And I want to
Bears, the Bears.
And you guys come back next week and we'll talk about more.
See you next week.